Behold, the humble preload adjuster. Today, we're going to fit them, dial them in, and see if they transform this DR650 into a more capable or improved machine.
While I'm far from an expert on the subject, I've spent a good deal of time over the past many months getting to know the Suzuki DR650. Rebuilding, repairing, and riding. There are more than a few videos on the channel documenting that journey. I'll post a link here if you're interested in checking those out. But when the first DR came into the garage, I had zero experience with the bike, so before I picked up a wrench, I did what most of us would do. Turned to the internet in an effort to learn what I could. Aside from the lack of aftermarket plastics compared to bike like Suzuki's other DR, what I saw as the chief complaints, the carburetor and suspension.
Now, personally, I don't have an issue with either of those, but I recently received a pair of these. Remember these? Preload adjusters. Let's go plug them in.
Installation of the adjusters is pretty straightforward. Once you move your handlebars out of the way, using a 22mm socket or wrench, unscrew the caps. But before you do that, be aware that there are springs under there that are being pushed down by the cap. You can do as I have here and lift the front of the bike off the ground, and that will extend the springs, taking much of the pressure off the cap, but still a good idea to keep downward force on it as you're unscrewing it. That'll keep you from getting a not-so-gentle kiss on the forehead or worse. With caps removed, line up the adjuster, and being careful not to strip the threads, snug them down. After both are in place, be sure to properly torque them down to 23 foot-pounds or 31 Newton-meters, depending on your flavor of torque wrench. With the help of an assistant, we're going to set up both the front and rear preload off camera. You can check out the excellent video we used to do just that in the link below. Then it's off to the trails.
Contrary to what you may think as I did, a motorcycle's front fork preload adjuster does not change the stiffness of the springs. What it does is adjust the height of the motorcycle relative to its suspension travel. That's what the kids call sag. Now, because there are bigger brains than mine, rather than me explaining the process of setting up sag on your bike, we did post that link below to someone who's better qualified to explain the sciences and maths. I'll stick to hammers and shiny things. Now, because I tipped the scales at 150 pounds, which puts me in the target weight range that Suzuki designed these bikes for, it does explain why I don't have any issues with the stock setup, but it doesn't help in terms of conducting this test. So to solve that issue, I donned this 20-pound weighted vest. It came out with her in stock setup a few days ago. At that time, I did notice the bike felt a bit less happy, we'll say. And in a couple of occasions, it did bottom out. Nearly anyway, particularly in this area. So, we went back to the garage, installed these preload adjusters, and wearing the vest, set up the sag. Now, here we are today. Same rider, same bike, with the exception of the preload adjusters and a fresh setup. I will add that on both occasions I had a full or nearly full fuel tank. You'll likely notice the larger Acervis gas tank. That full tank adds a bit of extra weight to the front of the bike, obviously. In fact, according to Google AI, here I go again with the Google AI, they claim that the full Acervis tank will add about 11 pounds to the front of the bike. That's not an insignificant amount. Meaning that's a slightly heavier than stock bike, even with the roughly 5-pound weight loss given by ditching the stock muffler. Well, it's getting hot out here, and the extra 20-pound layer of clothing, or gear, we'll call it gear for the sake of this test, isn't making the heat any more tolerable. So let's cut to the chase, so to speak. Stepping on the scale in full gear with the added 20-pound vest showed 182 pounds, or 13 stone, if you will. And at that weight, I can say that these preload adjusters in a proper setup do make a difference. The bike feels more stable and it isn't quite so eager to bottom out. Now, all that said, if you're exceeding 200 pounds and go off-road, my guess is you're going to need more than these preload adjusters. Likely the rear suspension will become an issue as well at that point, resulting in some much more expensive upgrades. But I did put a link below the adjusters if you're interested. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.